Do you want a great player first? That
Yes.
even that
Yes, even a great, but like, dude, he was still underrated.
Dan Marino was underrated. I mean, Dan Marino was doing exactly what Patrick Mahomes was doing in the 80s.
All right, guys, welcome to an episode of Fully Loaded. My buddy Chris Carter. How you doing, man?
Oh, good, dog. What's happening?
I know you are. Everything, dude. Everything and nothing all at the same time. We were just talking about, I said, it's funny. I remember my coach. Remember that movie? You might not have seen. Remember that movie, Varsity Blues? You ever watch that movie? Probably not. So it's a high school movie about high school football in Texas.
Okay.
And the backup quarterback, the number one quarterback, the team, he's going to FSU, and his knee's all jacked up. And they're popping the coach is like, yo, you keep playing. He has no business continuing to play. Ends up getting his knee jacked up out with a backup quarterback, super smart kid going to Brown University, but he's a backup. And the coach pulled him aside one day. He said, you the dumbest smart kid I know. Literally, you smart, but you the dumbest smart. You have new ideas all the time. So we're just talking about the people that got too much money and don't know what the hell to do with it. There's some dumb people out there. So, well, hey, man, I want to get right to it. And I was listening to Dana White the other day talk about the UFC. And I follow it a lot because when Sean Merriman started doing his lights out thing, I like Sean a lot. I was watching that. And I was like, that's pretty cool, like the way you're doing that. And like Dana's got his thing, and you ain't going to be Dana. But you can be like a crazy cool deal and like be a feeder there. And he was on a podcast and somebody said to him, asked him, you said Joe Rogan was actually a more important hire, recruit than any other athlete you've had in the UFC as far as notoriety, scaling the company, doing all that. And he said, the UFC would not be what it is today without Joe Rogan. And he said he's been as important as anybody. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's McGregor. I don't care who it is. Matter of fact, he was telling a story about how he worked for the first however many months for free. Called up Rogan. Rogan's like, you mean I get to watch the fights? And he said his unique ability to just like tell the story because I was in it. And as a football guy, I mean, the athletes are that's what I turn the game on Sunday for. I didn't turn it on for anybody else. I turned on to watch the sport itself. I bet on the sport. I watched the sport. I enjoyed the sport. But in the NFL, is there anybody that like, man, had they not had this guy or that girl, it wouldn't be what it looked like today? Or was it just such a player-oriented deal it didn't matter?
Well, I think that, what they accomplished in UFC is unique in itself because there's no regulations.
Correct.
And also they don't have a draft. So, ours is regulated and we have a draft. So typically it stays the worst teams are going to get the best players. And that's why we have so many different champions. I think that if I went back to the 70s and early 80s, the Washington Redskins, they had a guy named Bobby Betherford who drafted all those players and really retreaded a lot of free agents. But the person who is that person kind of been an enigma. That would be Al Davis, man.
Really?
Al Davis did that. Like he worked every job in the Raiders, scouting, coaching, but his eye for talent and renegades, that's what changed the Raiders into like who they were. Like his ability to be able to judge talent. And he was always trying to promote minorities way before. Tom Flores was a coach way before they was talking about minorities being coaches. Tom Flores, Gene Upshaw, they were the coaches of the Raiders. So not only the locker room, it matched like the front office. He was one of the first people to hire a woman, in the front office. So, it's nice to see that, now UFC, they're an empire. You look back on it and it was like, wow, this person right here. And I think that he says that because the timing, I don't think he was more important than some of the figures that got him to that stage. Then he was able to be able to enunciate, tell the product, and do things like that. But if they didn't have that product for him to describe, what was he going to do?
Correct.
So I think that systematically the timing was perfect, but I think in the NFL and the way it worked and the way the team moved around, and now that team being in Las Vegas, like Al Davis was always fighting for better stadium conditions, a better deal. Like, you guys aren't treating me right here in Oakland.
Yeah.
Like, this don't make sense. Like, he won.
He fought him.
Yeah, he fought him, took him to court. Like, so, to me, that type of person, that type of valuable talent that, to me, maybe still didn't get the type of respect he deserved, Al Davis.
What about if Chris Carter's watching a game and you'd like to listen to one commentator, color guy, whatever we want to call him, who's the guy you like listening to the most when you're watching the game? Play by play, on there talking, that you're like, man, I hope it's so-and-so. It's a good game. I'm going to watch on TV. I ain't going to be there. Who's that guy?
Right. I like both of these guys independent of each other, and that would be Troy Aikman and Joe Buck.
Okay.
I mean, Troy Aikman is a real dude. Like, he explains the game in a way. He is not trying to take any attention on himself, and he dumbs the game down that he doesn't tell us all the things he knows. I know this. So he gives us a version.
So you don't feel stupid as a viewer.
Yes.
You relate.
Right.
He knows a hell of a lot, but he presents it in a layman's terms.
And even his voice, like he's worked. Like, if you would think Troy Aikman was going to be a commentator for 20 years, you'd be like, no, not Troy. But he's really embraced it. He's really worked at it. And Joe Buck, man, is just a chip off the old block of the dad. Like, he is a world-class broadcaster. No matter what the sporting event, he's got the pipes. He's got it in his genes. He loves sports. The way he tells a story is one of a kind. So the combination of them doing a game, to me, and it don't have to be a big game, because they bring the same excitement. Correct. If it's Super Bowl, if it's a regular season game, and that type of consistency, I really enjoy.
What do you mean, Troy? I would agree, and I like listening to Troy Aikman a lot, and Buck. When he doesn't try to become bigger than the game, become part of the game, he just does this. Explain to me what some other people do. You don't have to tell me who it is. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. You can if you want. But what are some things that people do and you're like, dude, don't do that? Like,
well, one of the things in broadcasting school, broadcasting games 101, they tell you, don't predict the calls of the referee.
Okay.
Don't talk over the referee. So you'll see, when they start to see the referee getting ready to call, you'll see everyone silent so the fans can hear it. But before he says it, don't say, oh, I think that's holding on the left tackle, even though you're right. Now, there's some recent broadcasters they've allowed to do this, the predictability of plays, like, oh, I think they're going to throw the ball here. When I watch games, when I watch film, I can pretty much predict where the ball is going to go if the quarterback is reading everything out the right way. This is who they should attack. But when you try to predict where the ball is going to go, that is not what the fans need.
We're watching and we want to be entertained.
Yes.
Right? Like, I want to watch and not know where it's probably going to go.
Right. And I think that, recently, I think that a couple people, one in particular, started off doing the predicting. People thought that was great. And then now it's like, man, he talks an awful lot.
He don't shut up.
Yeah,
I just want to watch a game.
So.
Are there some people you got to turn the sound down?
The product, absolutely.
You're like, I can't do it.
I mean, it's absolutely. Like, there's too many bad announcers out there.
Why?
Like,
are there not a lot of good guys that play the game that would make good announcers?
The reason why people don't want to be announcers because they only pay for there's only 6 primetime jobs, like calling games.
Okay.
All right.
What's a primetime guy again?
Okay, let's look at Thursday night broadcast. Okay. Kurt Herbstreit does that with Al Michaels.
What are they getting?
Well, they're doing a combo because he's doing college football and everything. So
what are they getting? What kind of money they getting?
Over $10 million.
Over $10 million a year. Okay, got it.
Then you have Tony Romo.
Yeah.
You have Troy Aikman.
What are those guys getting?
Ginormous, $20 million.
$20 million a year.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then now you have Mr. Tom Brady. But besides that, the guys, Greg Olsen, they cut his salary in half. I think that when they brought Tom Brady, they cut his salary in half going the other way.
What was his?
I don't know the exact number, but I think it might have went from maybe 8 to 4 or 6 to 3.
So Tom Brady was like, I ain't doing what I did in the NFL anymore.
Well, no.
I'm just being an ass. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
No, Tom Brady got the
I know he did.
300 million.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm talking about the guy who is replacing.
Yeah.
He was the number one guy. He called the Super Bowl. He was great.
Right.
He's the number one guy. His salary got cut in half.
He's still there.
But I don't think there's really anyone else that's calling games, because I looked into calling games that they're making $1 million a year.
Really?
Yes.
So if you can't get one of those spots.
No. So when you see these people bouncing around doing college, pro, and calling games, especially college games, oh my God. Like, not unless you are the prime, unless you're Herbie, unless you're Joel Klatt at Fox, him and yeah, there's not that many. Like, they're not making money.
That's why the talent pool is.
Yeah, that's why. Well, most of the talent pool was doing studio jobs, but the money in TV, man, has totally gone sideways.
Correct.
That they're only paying a few people to do that. They're only paying a few people to call games. Like, they don't have the subscriber base. People are not watching TV all day. This generation, they don't have cable.
No.
So you don't have the subscribers to be able to pay people what they used to be able to pay them.
So when you were playing back then, who do you think the best play caller was? Play-by-play guy, commentator? Who?
John Madden.
John Madden's the man, right?
Yes.
How is he as a dude?
He's a football coach.
Yeah.
And everything that he had in football coaching, he took to TV. But he took his personality. Like, John wanted to have a good time, and the way he described football was joyous for us to listen to, but that was really him.
You couldn't be in a bad mood watching a game with him talking.
No, because he loved the game. He couldn't, I mean, he's a world-class coach and then now a world-class broadcaster. They built this bus. I'm getting ready to drive all around the country, NFL games. And guess what? The hook was this video game stuff that made him millions.
It's insane.
That was the most popular thing he ever did.
I know.
Was the video game. You know, so Madden, his stamp on the NFL was, second to none. John Madden, man, amazing. Even the interview he does the night before the game, the information, the questions he asks you, like, it's a big game. Like, that, man, something could happen. You could do something, and John Madden could say his voice to it that could change the arc of your career.
Yeah. So NFL, I was reading something the other day about the Pro Bowl, All-Star games, baseball, basketball, football. How many Pro Bowls are you playing?
8.
And how different was the Pro Bowl when you played? I mean, forget about now when we have what we have, but even before it got changed dramatically, how different was it?
180.
Explain it.
Well, first thing from the practices, like our practices, like the defensive backs and stuff that we had on the NFC, Darryl Green, Aeneas Williams, Deion Sanders. Yeah, those are most of the guys in the NFC. And the receivers, me, Michael Irvin, Jerry Rice, Andre Rison, Herman Moore. But those were the receivers. And we went to practice, man. We was going at it.
In practice?
Yeah, well, he's like, man, get the best DB up here. Let's see what you got. Like, I'm getting ready to test you. I want to see. I want to test myself too.
Yeah.
So the practices were very, very competitive. And then which in turn carried over to the game.
How close was that game back then to like a regular
70%. It was definitely better than a preseason game.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. You have more detail. Yes.
But dudes are flying around hitting each other.
Oh, no, absolutely. And we let each other know, man, when it's at the beginning of the fourth quarter, everybody, they tell them, man, check your bill at the hotel. Because, you flying everybody to Hawaii.
Yeah.
At that time, I think the loser was getting 10 grand and the winner was getting 20. I was like, man, I lost money. I got grandmom out here. I got the nanny out here. I got 2 kids. I got, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's play some ball. So the intensity definitely ratcheted up, but, different species, man, different mindset.
How'd it change?
I just think collectively, like, they just start letting it slip. I think it also came in when we had a couple guys get hurt, came up with not career-ending injuries, but you tear an ACL in a Pro Bowl, you tear an ankle, it's going to get guys' attention. And I just think gradually people stop caring. And you could see the intensity, like somebody just let the air out the ball. And man, once you let the air out the ball, like you can't get the air back in there. So eventually they tried to come up with all these antidotes to, hey, how can we put air back in the ball? It was like, it will never, ever, when you take away the intensity, there's no amount of money that will make guys play hard when it don't count.
But even though you all had the money back then, 20, 30, for what are the Pro Bowl guys? What were they getting now? Does it even matter when they're losing?
Well, I don't think it matters. I think it was like 50 and 100, but it doesn't matter with the guaranteed contracts and what they're making.
Correct.
But it don't matter because their mindset, like,
correct. That's my point. Like,
yes.
20 grand was 20 grand.
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
in a Pro Bowl. That's 20 G's.
Right.
I can pay for everybody's flights, take
Right.
care of it. I ain't making $40 million a year.
No, and even if they're going to pay them $100,000, like everyone makes $100,000, that's still not going to be motivation enough for me to play one more game that I risk my career.
Should they get rid of it?
It's not like basketball. It's not like baseball. And even in hockey, the All-Star game is totally different and it's not physical at all. But in football, man, you can get hurt by running. Nobody have to hit you.
Correct.
Like you can tear up your ACL by running the in cut. So
what's the answer? I mean, what's the new format? What's your thoughts on new format?
Well, this is the thing, that this generation, they still believe in the Pro Bowl. So, and if you've had a great season, you deserve to get that acknowledgement, add that to your resume. But trying to have an actual game compared to now having activities that are conducive to having a good time. The Pro Bowl will never be the Pro Bowl because Orlando will never be Hawaii.
Yep. Okay.
Like when you grow up in sports, man, typically the first time you ever been to Hawaii was at the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
And it is such a beautiful place. It's such a special place. It's not like you can just get up and, not even if you live in LA, man, you just can't get up and say, I'm going to Honolulu.
No.
And I think that kind of mystique is kind of lost also on this generation because the whole world's so much closer. Through TikTok and everything else, the whole world. Like,
it's not that big a deal. They watched a video in Hawaii. I've been there. I watched the video. I've seen it. You had not seen anything.
No.
Growing up. I mean, you were non-YouTube checking out Hawaii.
Right. Yes, I've been to Hawaii 9 times. And then my recent wife, she's like, that's my favorite place. So I had to take her there. But the other time, I was there with the league.
So you like what they need to have an acknowledgement. I agree. Like the players want to say I made a Pro Bowl. The activities, and they're never going to be the same, but you think they should continue at least something.
Well, because what it does is, man, this is another weekend on the calendar. Like, you don't realize what we're trying to do. We're trying to dominate the year. So after the NFC and AFC championship, I got everybody traveling to the Super Bowl city, but I'm going to give you a little appetizer, a little hodgepodge. We're going to play a little two-hand touch, we're going to do some things, but and we're going to take the helmet off of our best players.
So you can see,
And we're going to show you how
that,
athletic they are. We're going to show you our quarterbacks, how they throw. We're going to show you some stuff of how explosive and how special they are without playing the game of football. And I'm just trying to get to the Super Bowl.
Just trying to ride it out.
And now the ratings on this are still high enough that we got to do it.
Got it.
Right? The ratings on these games and stuff are better than they were the All-Star game, the Pro Bowl. But I'm still just trying to get to here.
Correct.
That's all. I'm just trying to get to
But I ain't
here.
going to give a week up. So I'm
No,
the NFL. I'm the NFL.
Because AFC, NFC championship, the high. We have 50 million people watching, dog. I can't allow
You gotta
y'all
wait 2
14
weeks.
days. No, I can't depend on that. No. That's why we have this. We're going to break the news of the schedule. When we're going to do that after the draft, because the draft has dominated for the last 2 months. So now let's get the schedule. Now let's talk about the matchups. Man, this is called domination. We're trying to take over.
Do you think it's as important for dudes? It was important to you making a Pro Bowl. I mean, it was, well, I shouldn't say, how important was it to you as a player to be named a Pro Bowler? You made it eight years, but how important
that's
was
the
it to you?
standard. It's the standard because ultimately, to me, I break it into sections. And I tell guys, when I get on this team, my number one goal is to be the best option offensively on this team. That's been that way since high school. On my high school team, I want to be the best option. When I go to college, we had Keith Byers up for the Heisman Trophy. I wanted to be the best option available to this team. When I left college, that's what I was. Went to Philadelphia. That was my goal. I want to be the best option. It's going to take me, okay, now how do I become a starter? Okay, now how do I become the best receiver on my team? Okay, now how do I become the best receiver in my division? Okay, if I'm the best receiver in my division, how can I be the best in my conference? That's where you get the Pro Bowl recognition.
What percentage of guys do you think, if you're guessing in the league, think the same way?
Maybe 20%.
Really? What about when you played? What percentage of them thought that way?
I think that maybe the percentage might be slightly higher, but I think that the league is so hard, everyone doesn't believe that the Pro Bowl is attainable.
Really?
And, like, there's different levels of thinkers and how people want to accomplish things. You know, people don't always set that as a mark because if I don't make it. See, I used to always say that because I wasn't afraid to not make it. Correct. So if I don't say it or if I don't enunciate it, then I'm not a failure if I don't get there.
This is, I don't know why it just came to my mind, and it might be a hard question to answer off the top of your head. Who do you think, from your era, when you're playing ball, who do you think was one of the most underrated pro football players? Offense, defense, I don't care. Just a guy that now you look back X amount of years later, and you're like, dude, people did not realize how good. Like, everybody knows how good you were. Everybody knows how good Jerry Rice was. Everybody knows. Nobody's disputing any of that. Randy Moss.
Do you want a great player first? That, like,
yes.
Even that
Yes, even a great, but like, dude, he was still underrated.
Yeah, Dan Marino was underrated.
Really?
I mean, Dan Marino was doing exactly what Patrick Mahomes was doing in the 80s. Where dudes was throwing for 2,000 yards. He was throwing for 4,000.
Yeah.
Like, totally.
Why was he so underrated?
I think Don Shula and the Dolphins mismanaged his career.
Really?
Yeah, like, they did not put the things around him. Like, he goes to a Super Bowl and then never gets far in the playoffs after that. Like, if Dan Marino's going to play 17 years for you and you're only going to win a handful of playoff games, like, he has the most magical arm of anybody I've ever seen.
Really?
I mean, just the lack of effort. If Dan is somewhere right now, he can throw a quick slant. They just don't step, just give him enough time to.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I believe Dan was really, really underrated. And I do believe because, you know, Elway won multiple Super Bowls, Montana won multiple Super Bowls, that Kelly appeared in multiple Super Bowls. Dan was that odd guy out. Like, you know, to me, he was one of the most underrated players of all time. I would also say Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman, because Dallas cannot win without Troy, without his mindset. Troy was the adult in the room with all the craziness too. And his ability to be pinpoint accurate. And he got smashed early in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, he really, you know, I think Troy Aikman, Dan Marino are two of the most underrated players, great players of all time.
How about one that wasn't great? I mean, everybody that played in the NFL was great, but I mean, like, wasn't a great NFL player, but damn, he was a good player, and he was in the NFL, so obviously, but was underrated. Somebody that we wouldn't.
Let me think about it. Man, there was a guy, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, Aaron Glenn.
Okay.
Undersized corner, high draft pick with the Jets. But, man, I used to have so many problems with him because he was so patient. And typically, small guys, I'm not going to have a problem with him, but he was strong. And I believe he was definitely one of the most underrated players that we saw, that was on that, okay, was he good? Okay, was he great? Yeah, Aaron Glenn. And now to see him in Detroit thriving with that team, and them, now that they got championship aspirations, a lot because of guys like Aaron Glenn.
Validates what you thought about him.
Aaron Glenn.
Sharp as shit.
Yes.
He was with the Patriots, too. No? Jets. Okay.
Jets.
That's a little I know.
Jets, Jets, number 31.
All right, so switching
Like a
gears.
gnat. Get away. Man.
How tall was he? How big was that?
I would say about 5'10".
And you run what?
I'm 6'2" and 1/4.
Okay.
So
And
I can definitely eat off of
he
his
was
head.
still a problem.
Yes, a problem.
Giving up 4+ inches, he's still a problem.
Yes. He's the guy that I bring up. I played against 7, 8 Hall of Fame defensive backs. He's the guy that I bring up as a guy that people wouldn't know who I had problems or issues with.
What would he do physically? Like, I know he knew the game, but what would he do physically that would create a problem?
Well, man, he is stronger than you anticipate.
Really?
And most short guys don't have long enough arms that can affect you in a way, but he was really smart with his jam. He wouldn't leave his arm, because if a guy would try to jam me, I would immediately either grab his wrist or grab his elbow or grab his shoulder.
Get him off.
Like, there's 3 points of contact that I can grab. When a guy does like that, I'm like, oh, goodness, thank you. I'm so glad you did that. No, give me that.
Aaron didn't do that. He didn't give it to you. Quick.
Really quick, and then staying in the middle of your body, and had the ability to be physical as a smaller guy. Like Darryl Green, a Hall of Famer, loved Darryl Green. And Darryl Green's going to be a problem, but Darryl Green's not going to be physical. He's going to be a shadow. He's going to shadow box you the whole time.
What would you prefer? Guy physical?
I prefer the shadow because the quarterback, he can't stop me from where I'm going. Like, I'm still going to get to every spot that I need to on the field. Now, if I get to a spot and they throw the ball within that catch radius.
Good.
Yeah, you're done.
Who's the dude that held you the most? Got away with it?
I'm going to say Aeneas Williams, because he's a Hall of Famer. Him and I played a lot against each other. But he's holding, I'm pushing.
Yeah.
Also, Troy Vincent, the executive director of the NFL, he's a holder. Yeah, Troy. You can't hide in the Ivory Tower NFL office. We're coming for you, too. Holding.
Got away with it?
Yeah, good player.
Good, yeah.
Good player.
Real good.
Yes.
Plus different.
He would be with Terry Glenn, one of the most underrated guys that people would say, okay, well, you don't mention them. They're in that good to great category. They're right in there. They're right in there.
Got it. Switching gears real quick. You're a basketball guy. So we talked a while back. Danny Hurley was looking at going to Lakers, and they hired Redick. First of all, what are your thoughts on that? JJ, the Lakers, coaching, the whole deal.
Now, in basketball, the Lakers are my favorite team.
I know that.
Okay? They drafted my brother when I was in 9th grade. So the Lakers have always been my team since I was a little kid. I've stayed with. So to me, this is the Lakers the last 10 or 15 years. It's since Phil Jackson. Since Phil Jackson, they never had the best coach. It's like always going to be second or third, or let's give somebody a chance. We have given so many people. The Lakers wasn't. I mean, besides. The Laker coach before Pat Riley was Westhead, right?
Paul Westhead?
No, that's in Phoenix. But I'm thinking the Lakers just have not been I'm going to give you a chance type franchise.
Okay.
Like, they're legendary.
100%.
17 championships, like established coach, like legendary players. Go out and draft, get a free agent, legendary player. But we have given more guys try at being a coach over the last 10 years, and to me, it's affected the product. Like, the product right now, like, what are we? Like 4th, 5th best in the West?
Yeah.
Like, the West is stacked.
Yeah.
Now, JJ, obviously him and LeBron, they have the podcast together. Like, they have some type of relationship. But, how can you go from doing a podcast with LeBron James,
Drinking wine and hanging out with your boy.
to coaching him and telling him, okay, this is the direction that we're going to have for the next 2 seasons. Because LeBron's probably going to play 2 seasons.
Correct.
So this is going to be the plan for the next 24 months. Like, I know J.J. Redick, when he was calling the NBA Finals, he had to come up with a plan for LeBron. Because he's not walking around in life as a plan for LeBron. Now, I do think that the coach from UConn, Hurley, would have had an appropriate plan for LeBron, even though his lack of NBA experience, and that plan would have been followed up with some type of authority. See, I really worry about LeBron, just like every other great, how they finished. Because almost all the greats, they finish a shell of ourselves. Like, and we make bad decisions at the end. Like, if they could pull up footage of 2002 season, late in November, late in December, of Chris Carter, number 88, playing with the Dolphins.
You don't want to see it?
You're going to get sick, man.
You don't want to watch it?
But you couldn't tell me in my heart, oh, man, yeah, I'm ready, man. Yeah, like, let's go. It's 45 minutes from the house. I'm just a shell of it. Now, LeBron is the unicorn. He is the guy that has played at the high level late in his career, like no one else. Brady and him. That's it. But the decision-making, man, we need leadership. We need a coach. We need a plan. LeBron still needs that. They don't have a plan to beat Denver. They don't have a plan to beat Minnesota. They don't have a plan to beat Dallas. They don't have a plan to beat Phoenix. Like, they really don't. And to me, I love LeBron. But his influence on the coaches throughout his career will go down as probably the black mark on his career. Because that dude has gotten rid of some coaches, ruined some coaches,
correct.
And he has done some things behind the scenes, too, to some coaches that the public, the public don't know about that are real.
Correct.
And people in the basketball world, like, they know that they're real. So do
you think LeBron would have been a fan of Hurley coming? Forget about JJ, right? I don't know what you think he would have been. Think he would have thought that was a good fit for him.
I don't think Hurley gets on the plane
unless
LeBron's involved.
Got it.
And I do believe LeBron loves college coaches. He's always loved Coach K, and that's the gap in his career he didn't have.
True. Okay.
So there's no way, because LeBron has the ability to opt in his contract. You can't interview someone without, hey, man, what are we going to do here? Like, are you going to opt in? Like, they have to know that. Okay, well, these are the people we're talking to. And the way LeBron and them do business, they're always involved. So
you ain't fired up by J.J. Redick as a Lakers fan?
I think
cautiously,
JJ,
great dude, I'm not a coach.
I like JJ.
Yeah.
I like JJ as a player. I like the fact that when JJ was when the Olympics and Kobe was going after him at the Olympics because Coach K was talking about, oh, man, I got this little white kid, man, he's great and everything. Kobe's like, what? And Kobe went after him and annihilated him in the Olympic trials. So
just because
the coach was bragging about it.
Right.
The NBA and the ability to be able to transfer from playing to coaching is at an all-time level. And it's always been, Bill Russell, you could go from the court to playing because you're playing both sides of the court. There's not an install, offense and defense, that you don't know. When you're playing in the NFL, you're only playing a third of the game. So if you play defense, you're playing a third. You got special teams that you're not going to master. And then you got offense or defense that you're not going to master. Correct. So there's a lot more. There's a reason why NFL players aren't ascended to be head coach like NBA. So I do believe that his coaching background, I love his attitude. And I love the fact that he had to work himself into being the player that he is. Conditioning-wise, fundamental-wise, and he's a tough dude.
Yep.
Like, he can be a prick. Like, he can, but I love his attitude in TV because, man, there were some people saying some stuff sideways on TV, and he was just like, I know I'm just now starting, but that's whacked. Like, that's not true. Now, that part right there, I do like. I would be more excited if he was coaching another team.
Got it.
Because I do believe that Anthony Davis, LeBron dynamics, and the lack of them being able to move as a team with lack of draft picks, draft capital, like this is pretty much going to be the team. And then are they going to use a second-round pick on Bronny? Like now I'm stuck with LeBron and I'm stuck with Bronny to start my NBA career. Like, is that what I want to do?
Is that what's going to happen?
The Lakers are going to definitely, unless Phoenix or Dallas draft Bronny before that, because there's 3 teams that have an interest in him.
Got it.
And those are the 3 teams.
Got it.
And they all have second-round picks. So, yes, I do look for Bronny
So JJ
James
could be in a real tough spot to start as a coach.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, how long LeBron's going to play? Like
you said, a couple years.
Then how are they going to win the West?
I don't see how they win the West. I don't see that they win the West.
No, I think that JJ, when you're offered the Lakers job, like you can't turn that job down. Mm-hmm. But what they're doing in the league, man, 1 or 2 years, man, they firing guys. Doc Rivers, he fired.
Dude,
in the booth.
They
now he's in Milwaukee. Like,
how does that make any sense? You win all those games and you're out.
They fired my guy in Detroit. I love him. Goodness gracious, how can I forget his name? Come on. His wife died a couple years ago.
Yeah, no, and I wish I could remember.
He got $65 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
They let him go. Trajan Landon is the new general manager there. He came up from New Orleans, but like the NBA man is different. And the lack of loyalty to the coaches, that's what I'm more worried about with JJ than anything else. Not his ability to coach or lead or be a dude in the locker room. I think he could be another version like Ty Lue. Because I think Ty Lue is underrated, and he's definitely one of the 5 best coaches in the league.
So, JJ, you just worried about their loyalty to him, new coach,
and then
NBA's
the lack
tough.
of being able to move, and the West is stacked.
Correct. And you got what you got for a team. I mean, you ain't doing – I mean, what are they going to –
Yeah, and I think LeBron's going to be on his own program the next 2 years.
Yeah, he's been on his own program. So, last question, because I was watching this yesterday. It's the first time I've watched ever in its entirety WNBA game. And I watched Caitlin Clark and Reese play, and I was entertained. And I was entertained because, number one, I grew up in Connecticut. I went to a lot of them Suns games. I never stayed for an entire game. I went to a lot of UConn games, women's basketball. And what missed for me, like people were excited, that was cool. What I loved about watching my son play baseball, baseball and football, why I love basketball the most, I loved, when I say the competitive nature, I love the way people were with each other. I love people being that close to each other. I love people talking shit to each other. I love people challenging each other. I love that the fans and them AU gyms can be involved. I loved everything about that part of the game.
Right.
And when Angel Reese was dancing around talking shit, I liked it. And I was entertained by it.
Right.
Aside from that, what has got us all, maybe we don't, because I also saw a packed arena. I mean, it was packed. I was watching ESPN.
The tickets were ridiculous.
Live. They're ridiculous how much they were.
Yep.
Can you encapsulate for us what is actually happening? And the last part of that question is, why every time when I start reading about it somewhere, because I start watching comments, I don't know why I start reading them. What's happening, number one? Like, why are we all watching, or a lot of us, more than ever? Because I used to walk in those Suns games. I could walk in a minute and a half before the game started, sit wherever I want.
Yeah.
For no money.
I had the apartment right next to it.
For no money.
Right there at Hartford 21.
Yeah.
Right next to it.
No
I watched
money.
it on TV, not even walk downstairs to go see it.
So what is happening, and why is race becoming such a big part of it? Is that a mismark? Like, why do I get halfway through the comments and race becomes an issue? Because I'm trying to understand that part for me, so I get it.
Well, before this season, there wasn't any race issue in the WNBA.
Got it. Because I never thought there was.
No.
I've never been aware that there was at all.
No. But the reason why we're watching the games is because the skill level of the women has piqued our interest. All right? They can dribble the ball a lot better than ever before. Now, the actual ball is smaller, allows them to be able to handle it because their hands are smaller. their ability to be able to shoot the basketball and shoot it from deep.
Okay.
It helps out the game. It widens the court. So now we're just not in a muck in the lane,
Correct.
foul and everything, because that's not a cute game to watch for women.
Yep.
So their overall skill level has been very, very appealing. And then the Caitlin Clark phenomenon happened. And it happened with her losing. Because everyone was pulling for her to win, man.
That national championship game.
Yeah, the last 2 years.
Okay. So you think the majority of people watching basketball were pulling for Caitlin Clark?
Right. I mean, 2 years ago, if you look at the coach of LSU and Reese and those girls, they were like the villain.
Correct. That's how they were spun. Agreed.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. They won the national championship. And that, to me, the press conference, the back and forth, you don't want to see me.
Can't see me, yeah.
And then it went into this year. But we forgot last year that South Carolina was undefeated and lost, got upset.
Correct.
So then come back that, okay, LSU, they had a couple players. Caitlin Clark and them, they was hooping all year. Her team was better. And South Carolina's undefeated again.
Correct.
With Dawn Staley, one of the most underrated coaches in all the sports. She is amazing. So now we get back this build-up, and everyone's watching these games, and then she's tracing this scoring title. So that's more eyeballs. Like, she's historic now. Then now getting ready to take this team, pretty much, LSU beat them against South Carolina, wasn't able to do that, but it endeared her to a lot of people. So now it's like, okay, where's she going? Typically when we have this story of a smaller white player in the tournament, they're not going to get drafted. So the Cinderella story's over. The glass slipper didn't fit. Now she's got to go back home. Her sisters are the stars. No, she's still a star. And it was so close to the tournament, the draft. And then now with them starting up playing, it's like, man.
They just finished. They finished on Monday, they played on Wednesday, it seemed.
And then the WNBA with Becky Hammon taking over coaching, one of the real legendary stars, and then the team's popularity and their great players, they were already building this. And then she came in. These girls were dressing up to the games. They had to run. They had this going the last couple of years.
They're already doing it. Yeah.
And then they inject her. And then now we're talking about, okay, well, what about the economics? If the NBA is a partner and everything, like, why aren't the girls doing better than what they are? Now we just started to care. But the product is better. So it's not like as Pat McAfee they censored him or something on ESPN because he said the white girl or the white bitch or something.
Really?
But he was saying it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Like, that white bitch is causing she can play, man.
Yeah.
Like, she can play. But the physicality of pro sports, hockey, baseball, everything, it's a rite of passage. They're going to always be more physical with you. That's the way it is. Now, if you're smaller, you're undersized, and you're a finesse player.
Why would they not?
Yes.
Get up on your shit, knock you around.
And it just happens that she's white. They don't care. It didn't matter yesterday that Reese was black and she was white. It didn't matter. They both got skill.
Agreed.
And it's got to be respected, and the product has improved. These ladies' skill level is at an all-time high. That's why the eyeballs and optics are on the game, and that's why it should stay on the game.
So people trying to inject, because I see it all over the place, and I'm like you. I'm watching it go, and then I get done watching this great game, and I'm like, dude, I just saw people like hooping, and better than I've seen, because it was good to watch. Again, growing up watching Rebecca Lobo, all them. I mean, dude, I'm glad they were good, but it was not that game.
Right.
You
know what it is
down
now?
the court,
Man, you remember when UConn got Maya Moore?
Yeah, sure.
It was like, man, these girls, Sue Bird and them, they could play and everything, but Maya Moore was on another level.
100%. I remember it. I'm a UConn fan.
It was like, man, she can shoot the basketball.
Yep.
From all over the court.
Right. She could do anything on the court.
That's the way these ladies are now. They can do more things on the court. So the product is better, and it allows the court to be open. Now we can play an open game. And the open game is far more appealing to anyone watching than no one wants to go back to the olden days in NBA in the 80s where the games were 85 to 82, the Heat versus the Knicks, grappling everything, the Bulls, Pistons. No, people want to see flow. People want to see the ball go up and down the court, and they want to see people's skill level. Drill behind the back, fancy passes, three-point shots.
Alley-oop, throw the ball in there, fly through the air.
And that's what they're doing now. Their skill level. We have to give them credit. It's not some type of marketing. It's not just some little girl from Iowa. It has built itself up this way, and this is the culmination of great college basketball, legendary generational players, and the WNBA being at an all-time high at the same time.
Correct. And it's only going to get better.
Absolutely.
The players just keep getting better.
We hope so.
Why not? I watched it. I'm going to keep watching. That was a good game to watch.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, man, I appreciate you. Appreciate your time as always. I appreciate y'all jumping on, supporting. Thank you. Again, stuff you won't get anywhere else. Download, like, subscribe, share. Chris Carter, love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for being on, man.
All right, dog.